Hey everybody, I'm Mindy Wilson. I'm in the Center for Career and Professional Development. We are doing a mini career chat today on federal government jobs. We have Kaitlin Vaught, class of 2015. She's a senior policy analyst at the HHS Office of Refugee Settlement. And Sarah Gardiner Harding, class of 2000, and she's in the administrative office for the U.S. Department of Labor. I think we're starting with Kate. And then they'll each talk for a few minutes, and then we should have some time for questions at the end.
Okay, hi everybody. My name's Kate. Like Mindy said, I was in the class of 2015. I graduated with a BS in economics and theater arts. From there, I went to law school. I graduated in 2018 from the University of Baltimore School of Law. During my time in law school, is in Maryland, if you didn't know where Baltimore is. During my time at law school, I worked for a former Maryland state senator as a lobbyist. I was first an intern, and then I was his policy analyst / chief of staff. We had anywhere from 50 to 100 clients every session. I worked for him for 3 sessions, which is 3 years. After I graduated from law school, I clerked for Baltimore City Circuit Court judge in family law, which is what I was really interested in practicing if I was going to practice. From there, I actually returned to my former position with the former Maryland state senator in his lobbying firm for the 2020 session. Unfortunately, that was cut short. Thank you, COVID. And I was forced to really look for another job. I started applying, and I'm actually a federal government contractor. I am placed in Health and Human Services in the Office of Refugee Resettlement, working on the Unaccompanied Alien Children's Division. We house all unaccompanied migrant kids who will come into the state or the state's country, and we house them until we can reunify them either with families that are stateside or have them voluntarily depart or AKA deport them back to home country, or until we can reunify them with a potential sponsor, which could be a family member or a friend of the family or whomever here in the United States. Like I said, I work for General Dynamics Information Technology, GDIT, and I'm a contractor. My day-to-day operations, I'm situated in the office of the director. I work for the Division of Policy and Procedure. I'm on their legal services team, and I handle most of our litigation issues, as well as anything that's related to policy. Most of what I'm working on right now is policy that is coming out of our litigation. A lot of that is, I'm sure if you watch the news or read the newspaper, you've seen ORR pop up. It's something called the Flores Settlement Agreement. That's what is sort of what drives everything that we do. And we have a lot of litigation that stems from that and comes from that. So that's that's a lot of what I work on. I'm also working on varying other, just things that pop up. Never a dull day. We are actually on, I think I read somewhere that we are the top 7 of interest to the incoming administration, which is very exciting. A lot of work, a lot of man hours put into preparing for that. But it's been really awesome. I've been in this position since May, so I'm still getting my feet wet. But it's been a great transition from state work into federal work. And luckily, I'm in a position where we don't really distinguish a lot between federal and contractor. I'm doing a lot of the stuff that feds would be doing, with certain caveats, of course. I don't know. I think that's it. I think I covered everything. I'm happy to
Okay, so I'll just jump in then with kind of where I am and how I got here. In my senior year at Center, a class of 2000, I took advantage of a couple opportunities with the Career Development Office. They brought in a couple private sector companies with whom we could interview. They also set up mock interviews, which were very helpful because that was where I learned that I tended to play with my earlobe when I was talking. So I got to see myself in a mock interview before I actually did interviews. And that was one of the things I thought, I need to cut that out. Anyway, so I interviewed and I got 2 job offers, and I selected to go out and work with Fifth Third Bank. That was one of the companies that came by. And I decided to work in their Louisville office. My background, of course, graduating from Center, was not banking related. It was psychology and international relations. But I really was interested in just exploring a new field rather than going right into graduate school. So I was with Fifth Third Bank for not quite a year. And then there was a new change in administration in Washington, D.C. And there were people looking for, young, eager people to come to Washington. So I took advantage of that and I sent my resume forward. And I later learned that one of the reasons that they looked at my resume was because I included a cover letter. So I got a very entry-level position with the U.S. Department of Labor in their accepted service, which is an appointee sort of term limited slot. And I worked there for about 4.5 years, and then I began looking around for positions in the competitive service. And then I eventually found a slot that I thought was a good fit, and they thought it was a good fit. And I joined the Office of Public Affairs, which is where I am now. So we're a small agency within the Department of Labor. We are, the Department of Labor overall is about 17,000 employees, and about 4,000 in the Washington, D.C. area, 17,000. The majority of those 17,000 are spread across the country. So I work since 2005, I've been working with the Office of Public Affairs within the U.S. Department of Labor. And so we'll handle issues, media inquiries obviously is a hot topic. We have spokespersons that work in our office, any kind of telecommunications work will come through our office. And I handle a lot of the contracts, so acquisitions, personnel, hiring, offboarding, which is a nice way of saying separating employees, and the budget work. So because we're a small agency within the department, I sort of handle the gamut of those areas. Life is always interesting. COVID has certainly brought its own set of issues along with it. And but I've been teleworking since mid-March. And I have 3 children who are also virtual with me here at home. So if you hear them in the background, I apologize. But I've got 2 elementary school kids and 1 in 8th grade and middle school. So I try to make it back to Danville when I can. I do have family still in the area. This was supposed to be our 20th reunion year, but obviously with COVID, things were put on hold. But if there's any questions that I can help answer about opportunities that exist with the government or applying for government positions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But that's kind of a little bit about how I got to where I am.
So I want to give the students a chance to ask questions, but something has come up, and I think this is very unique to federal government jobs. And you have both mentioned this in different ways. So there's contract work, there's appointee related work, there's non-appointee related work. Can you guys talk a little bit about those kinds of jobs, and I don't know how to navigate that system, which is different than, applying to Fifth Third is, there's one way, but with government jobs, there's so many different types. What do you recommend to students to be able to find out more about these and understand that system?
So I can speak just briefly to the, so on the government side for a federal position, there is competitive service, which is anybody from the public can apply for a competitive service position. Oftentimes those positions are advertised on USA Jobs as delegated examining, or DE. You'll see that acronym used. For DE positions, there is something called veterans preference that applies. So when all the candidates submit their resumes and answer all the questions in an application, if there is a veteran that has applied and meets certain criteria, they may float to the top of the list. So you may be qualified for a job, but let's say there's one position opening and 50 veterans apply. The person hiring is not going to see the non-veterans. They will only see the veterans. So that's on delegated examining. For students, one thing that is kind of, I forget when they sort of revitalized this, but it's called Schedule D. And it is a pathway to positions in the federal government for recent graduates. Graduates within the last 2 years, and it could be at the undergraduate level or it could be graduate school related. And it's a pathway where they can apply for positions through that Schedule D appointment. It's the way I've sort of received briefings on it. It's more of a developmental, you'll get a lot of training in those positions because the hiring agency really wants to develop the person so that they actually stay and transfer over to a career conditional position. So accepted service is what those appointee political hires are, and other term limited appointments is the accepted service. And Katie, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about contract work. So I was actually recruited by GDIT. They found me on LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, fill that out. It's great. Like I'm still getting job, like people asking me to apply for jobs. Like I'm like, I have a job, stop. But so the federal government doesn't just have career staff or political appointees. They also fill a lot of their positions with contractors. ORR is very unique because a lot of our positions are filled with contractors. A lot of our people who work in our shelters and who have day-to-day interactions with the kids that we serve are contractors. And what that basically means is that I work for the federal government sort of secondhand. My paycheck and all my benefits and everything is through GDIT, but I'm placed with HHS. I have an HHS issued laptop. I have an HHS issued ID badge. I will eventually, when we get back into the office, have a desk in the office. Maybe it'll be a broom closet, who knows? But it just means that I have certain things that I have to do. I have, reports and forms that I have to fill out for GDIT so they can continue to be compliant with their contract that they're offered. They're actually rebidding right now, but they're the only people bidding. So they're going to get it. It's not a big deal. And it just means that there are certain things that if we were to go to court, I couldn't represent the government in court because I'm not a federal employee. I'm a contractor. If there are certain decisions that I can't make that a federal staffer has to make, and they're just very small, really, differences. Biggest difference is I have a CTR behind my name on my email, which is,
So I have a follow-up question. Then I promise students you guys get a chance. But I want to be clear with the students. So USA Jobs is where you would find the jobs that Sarah was talking about. But I think, and so Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but then where do you find these positions, these contract positions? If you're not being inundated on LinkedIn with the job offers, where would you find those contract positions?
So the quickest way to sort of find, at least through GDIT, and there are other contractors out there who have various other initialisms and acronyms to their names. Do a quick Google search, federal contract positions. If you're interested in a particular agency, I'm sure they have contractor positions available or out there or potentially becoming available. If you're a science person and interested in sort of that, GDIT is really great. They don't do a lot of sort of human resource placing. There's not a lot open right now, at least. So I got stupidly lucky. But yeah, so if you just quick Google search federal contract positions, a lot of places will pop up, and GDIT will pop up. Other contractor agencies will pop up as well. I would just recommend, going through, making sure that they're legit and you're not applying for something that's not, on board. But yeah, it's because there's so many opportunities out there. There's not one centralized location that you can sort of locate.
Yeah. And Mindy, I would add that the government has to list all of its upcoming procurements or acquisitions. And for the Department of Labor, we use the GSA, the General Services Administration Acquisition Gateway. So anybody can go on there from the public to see what contracts are coming up for bid. So you can use that as a searchable tool to see what agencies are hiring. Not only does the federal government has to list what they have coming up that's available, they have to list their current contracts. So you can see who the incumbents are with various federal agencies. So by putting those two together, you'll know who the incumbent is, who the company is, and then you can perhaps put your resume out if that's an area where you're not seeing actual, an announcement on USA Jobs for USAID work or things like that. You can figure out where does USAID spend its contract dollars and with what companies.
Thank you, Sarah. I didn't even think about GSA, even though they're all over my email right now.
Thank you so much. Now I promise, students, do you have any questions for them?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, I'm Pearl. I'm an international studies major and I'm a senior at Center. My question is, I'm struggling to find out what's the preferred, skill set that the federal government's looking for. Specifically, I'm interested in the State Department, and I think I've noticed a lot of people are heavy on the finance and economics. And as an international studies major, I took econ, but it's not really my strong suit. So I was just wondering what you seem to be the most popular skill set.
I think, well, I can't really speak for a lot of the other agencies. For me, when we're hiring, the skill set that really I look for is good writing skills, because you'll be amazed at the number of people that get to a position and then they're asked to do some analysis or put together a report, and they're sort of floundering for the right writing skill or to find their voice. And so I'm not necessarily, our positions in the public affairs office are usually in professional series we have the communications work, we have a TV studio, so we have a lot of folks who are professional photographers or videographers. And so, a lot of those sort of communications type skill sets is what we hire for. But when I'm looking at the resume, if I see major typos or we don't see essays as much anymore, the way that they reconfigured USA Jobs, but we certainly do kind of give, for those who get past sort of the first panel interview, we'll sort of give them a writing assignment to sort of see, because when we sort of want to issue press releases, we want somebody to be able to do that, sort of capture the voice of the agency and be able to message out in a way that, you don't want too much government speak, in your writing samples. So for the State Department, I imagine that, they are looking for a variety of backgrounds. I wouldn't say that necessarily economics is you don't feel like that has to be the sole focus. But yeah, in my experience, it's always been those who put together sort of the best portfolio in terms of their writing samples have always turned out to be very good employees for us.
Yeah, I would second everything that Sarah said. I would also add that, I think, I mean, I can't speak to the State Department, but I know for us, we have a lot of backgrounds, a lot of different backgrounds that we pull from and that we, value in all of, I work on a team of 11, and we have backgrounds everywhere from law to psychology and social work. And I think it's not so much it's the ability to sort of synthesize information and put it together in a way that that is manageable for other people, because we're working with other agencies, doctors and nurses and people, and to be able to communicate effectively. So I think as long, honing those skills, those communication skills, like Sarah was saying, is probably really important. I mean, like I said, I can't speak to the State Department. I'm not in the State Department. But at least for HHS and for what we do, communicating and writing and being able to think critically about what we're doing is the biggest skill that you can bring to the table.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. My name's Sarah Kate. I'm also an international studies major and a senior. And I was wondering what you think like the pros and cons of working for the federal government are compared to the private sector. So if there was the exact same job, just the difference is the federal government versus private sector. What do you think those are?
That's a good question. I think, I mean, when I was in the private sector, it wasn't for very long, but I certainly, I felt like the upward mobility in the private sector was pretty quick, at least in the experience I had with Fifth Third Bank. They were eager to keep promotions coming for those who were willing to put in the hard work and effort. And with the federal government, it's been a slower sort of process in terms of getting the right fit in the next sort of level up. At the same time, I am very happy with the benefits that the federal government offers, not just in terms of health benefits or retirement benefits, but the work-life balance. I am a mother of 3 children, and I am able, even before COVID, I was able to telework twice a week. My husband, also a center grad, he was able to telework twice a week, so we were able to sort of make sure that our home life situation and dealing with the schedules of 3 young children, we could, fit in the baseball and all the music lessons and everything else. And that wouldn't necessarily have been possible had we not had a good balance with our work schedules. And I don't think that happened, the Telework Enhancement Act, which brought about sort of this increased telework in the federal government, didn't happen until the Obama administration. And that really opened up sort of this idea that, okay, employees can still be successful working from offsite. We don't have to have eyes on them at a desk every day. And then COVID has taken it to a whole nother level. But so, yeah, I really, I hark to the work-life balance that the federal government can offer. I don't know if the private sector offers it as much. But that's just, so yeah, I can only speak to kind of what I experienced.
Kate, do you have anything to add to that? I don't know if that's something that you can speak to.
I think, and I can't really speak necessarily to sort of the benefits or pay or anything like that. I will be able to benefit from teleworking twice a week. That is something that I will, be eligible for once we get back into the office. I think a con that I've sort of recognized, coming from sort of a semi-private sector work, even though I was working with the legislature, I was still working for a private organization, is sort of learning the difference between the big P politics and the little p politics in the office, and navigating that, because the federal government is full of bureaucracy, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that you have to learn, and something that you have to sort of be cognizant of as you're making decisions and as you're navigating the workforce, and as you're trying to, to get stuff done. Just being aware of that and making sure that you are not, stepping on toes of people, and that you're doing everything, filling out all the correct forms in the correct way, I would say. And again, it's not necessarily a con, it's just something to be cognizant of and aware of, and to know what you're getting yourself into as you're, as you're pursuing a career.
Thank you.
We are just about at the end of our 30 minutes. Does anybody have, we have time for one more question, I think, if there's any more out there. If not, I wonder if Kate and Sarah, if you have any kind of last parting words or bits of wisdom that you might be able to pass on to this group of students.
I do. I want to tell you guys that the most important thing that I learned from Center, and the most important thing that I did while I was at Center, was probably being forced to go to convocations. It's terrible. It sucks. But like, looking back on it, I realized that being forced to interact with, and just the virtue of a liberal arts education, being forced to interact with these different subject matters that I wouldn't necessarily be drawn to, has really helped me. Because like I said, I'm interacting daily on subjects, especially with COVID right now, on subjects of science and math and social work and psychology, and none of these things that I am like super familiar with. But I have that skill set where I was forced to interact with those subjects at Center, and sort of instilled in me this ability to synthesize the information and to ask pertinent questions, even though I may not know exactly what I'm asking. But so go to your convocations and embrace them and enjoy them and learn from them.
And I think the only parting words I have is, I mean, you're already doing it. You're participating in these opportunities that your career development office is offering you. So kudos to you for joining, at these sessions that in areas that might be something you would consider pursuing. That's how I got my start right off the bat. And I wanted to make sure that I had a job offer in the books, that I, could start saving for retirement. I didn't want to move in with my parents after graduation, and I didn't want them to worry about me. So, I took advantage of those opportunities that the Career Development Office was offering, from bringing in sort of some private sector companies. And so anything that they're doing, just, keep your pulse on it. And also that alumni network that Center College does have, and it's a real thing. It's up here in DC. It's amazing how many times that Center connection will come about. So take advantage of any alumni that come your way that are offering that sort of that olive branch, saying, hey, are you interested in doing an internship or volunteering in some capacity? Because sometimes those student volunteer roles might turn into something really incredible.
Well, thank you. And Sarah, I feel like we set this up like you lobbed me a softball for my ending. I'm going to put in the chat room for those of you who have not been in any of my sessions before. I see a couple of you who have, but we have a career mentor network to connect alumni with students. And that link is there. So students, feel free to go in, create an account. If you use your Center email address, you're automatically approved in that. Sarah and Kate, if you are not part of that, we would love for you to be part of it. But it's full of alumni who have offered to act as that network for you. And as we've discussed in other sessions, networking doesn't stop right after you graduate college. And so it also creates a space for alumni to work with each other going forward as well. So feel free to go check that out. And if you want to be in touch with Sarah or Kate, let me know. I have their contact information and I'll pass it on to you. But I also just want to say thank you to Sarah and Kate for the time that they've spent with us and the advice they've given. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see you all.
Thank you guys. It was so great to chat with you guys. And good luck to graduating seniors and everyone else continuing
Thank
on
you.
this journey. So, all right, bye guys.
Bye, thank you.